Olivier Janssens made his fortune when Bitcoin was worth pennies. Now he is betting over $1 billion on a single dream, turning a slice of the Caribbean island of Nevis into a city-state run by its own private rules. On paper, it's the ultimate haven for crypto billionaires, engineered by the designers of the Burj Khalifa, promising thousands of jobs. But locals are asking what happens when justice, citizenship, and even the law itself are up for sale. This project could redraw the line between nation and individual, or prove just how messy that experiment gets. If we can uncover the truth about destiny. Olivier Janssens did not just ride the Bitcoin wave. He helped shape its earliest days, buying in when the price barely registered on financial charts. As the world caught on, his digital wallet swelled from a few $1,000s to a fortune measured in the hundreds of millions. By the time Bitcoin hit headlines, Janssens was already looking beyond Lamborghinis and private jets. His capital, drawn from the most volatile asset class of the 21st century, put him in a league where borders and tax codes start to look negotiable. Now, he is channeling that crypto windfall into destiny, a project valued north of $1 billion. The numbers alone dwarf Nevis's annual GDP, giving Janssens the kind of leverage usually reserved for governments. But even with this financial arsenal, buying a plot of paradise is not the same as buying a country. Money can open doors, but the rules of sovereignty are not for sale, at least not in the way most billionaires imagine. For Janssens, the next step is not just about spending, it is about rewriting the terms of power itself. Glass towers and infinity pools shimmer across Destiny's marketing decks, stamped with the logo of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, the same architects who drew the Burj Khalifa into the Dubai sky. The promise is seductive, a city built from scratch, tailored for the world's most mobile fortunes, where every villa and hospital is rendered with the polish of a luxury catalogue. SOM's global portfolio trades in spectacle, and Destiny's renderings are no exception. Sprawling neighborhoods, green corridors, and the suggestion that Nevis could become the next Singapore, if only the right visionaries are in charge. But Nevis is no blank slate. The entire island measures just 93 square kilometers, with a population smaller than a midtown Manhattan apartment block, about 13,200 people. The project's proposed footprint, carved out of the island's quieter southern coast, is vast by local standards. Destiny's backers claim thousands of jobs will follow, a figure that, if realized, would remake the island's economy overnight. The glossy blueprints promise transformation, but the canvas is small and the brushstrokes are bold. For Nevis, the arrival of a billion-dollar enclave isn't just a facelift, it's a full-body transplant. Years before Destiny, Olivier Janssens set his sights on a goal that made even billionaires look small. The plan, called Free Society, was simple in theory and radical in practice. Buy full sovereignty from a cash-strapped nation, then claim a seat at the United Nations. No more negotiating with bureaucrats, no more waiting for regulators to catch up with technology, just a blank page for libertarian governance. But the world's passports and flags were not listed for sale. Governments listened. Some even entertained the idea, but none would surrender their sovereignty, no matter the price. The project collapsed without fanfare, leaving only rumors and a few archived manifestos on crypto forums. Janssens did not abandon the core idea. He adapted. Instead of chasing impossible deals with entire countries, He began studying the legal loopholes that let private enclaves operate with extraordinary freedom. Special economic zones, once tools for attracting factories, became the new template. The question shifted from, how do I buy a country, to how much autonomy can I negotiate inside one? That is when Nevis entered the picture. Becoming a local was not just a lifestyle choice. Janssen secured Nevisian citizenship through the island's investment program, a process that trades capital for a passport and a foothold in the Caribbean. He has lived on Nevis for nearly a decade, calling himself a proud Nevisian, even as he describes the island as a host nation, a place to test his vision, not a homeland in the traditional sense. His public statements leave little doubt about his worldview. Politicians are unreliable. Traditional courts are slow and inefficient. He says if we are just going to copy that, it is not attractive to people to come. The rhetoric has not softened. On social media and in interviews, Janssens rails against legacy systems, dismisses mainstream media, and aligns himself with Silicon Valley's most vocal disruptors. The goal is always the same: build a community where rules are chosen, not imposed, and where citizenship is a matter of contract, not birthright. Destiny is not a retreat from his free society ambitions. It is a tactical evolution. The island's new special sustainability zone law offers a statutory gateway, a chance to anchor his experiment in the fine print of local legislation. For Janssen, the lesson was clear. You do not need a United Nations seat to change the rules. Sometimes all it takes is the right legal carve-out and enough capital to make it stick. The Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Act, passed by the St. Kitts and Nevis Parliament in 2025, reads like a blueprint for legal flexibility. In black and white, it gives developers the ability to propose their own zone laws, rules that can shape everything from environmental standards to how contracts are enforced inside the zone. But these new laws do not take effect with a developer's signature alone. Each must be ratified by the National Assembly, and for projects on Nevis, by the Nevis Island Assembly as well. The statute never uses language like exclusive or supersede. Instead, it wraps private discretion in the language of parliamentary oversight, making clear that any carve-out must pass through a public vote, at least on paper. The real power, however, lies in the development agreement, the contract between government and developer. That is where the fine print lives: dispute resolution, tax concessions, regulatory shortcuts, and the mechanics of day-to-day governance. The Act authorizes the Prime Minister to negotiate and sign these agreements, but insists that any new rules must be presented to Parliament for a final green light. The legislation claims to reaffirm national sovereignty, stating that nothing in these contracts can override the Constitution. Yet the Act is silent on the actual terms of Destiny's agreement. As of early 2026, no full development agreement for Destiny has been published, and attempts to obtain the document have hit a wall of confidentiality. Parliamentary records show the Act passed with a comfortable majority, but debate transcripts are thin. Lawmakers cited the promise of foreign investment, infrastructure upgrades, and global prestige. The ratification clause was sold as a guardrail, a way to ensure that no developer could simply write their own laws unchecked. But critics warn that repeated parliamentary approvals could turn into little more than a rubber stamp, especially if political pressure and financial incentives align. The missing development agreement is more than a bureaucratic gap. It is a black box at the heart of the project. The Act gives developers the right to administer and enforce zone laws, but the scope of those powers, and the details of any private dispute resolution system remain hidden from public view. Without the agreement on the table, questions stack up. Who appoints the arbitrators? Are local residents bound by decisions made in private hearings? Can Nevisian courts overturn an arbitration award if it conflicts with public policy? No one outside a tight circle of negotiators knows for certain. The legal architecture is designed to look transparent, but the most important rules are buried in documents the public cannot see. For now, the only visible safeguard is the ratification process, a hurdle that is supposed to keep ultimate power in the hands of elected officials. But with the agreement itself still locked away, the true shape of Destiny's legal order remains a matter of speculation. The stakes are not theoretical. The next phase of Destiny's approval depends on whether lawmakers and the public ever get to read the fine print. Inside Destiny's legal architecture, the sharpest controversy isn't about architecture or amenities. It's about who gets to decide what's fair. The question at the center is about justice. The project's blueprint doesn't just map out roads and villas, it sketches a parallel system of justice. Destiny's backers propose that instead of taking disputes to the courts of Nevis, most conflicts, especially those involving land, contracts, or investors, will be settled by private arbitration panels. On paper, it is a system designed for speed and efficiency. In practice, it means that the rules of engagement are set by a contract, not by centuries of public law. The proposed mechanism follows a familiar pattern in international business. Each side picks an arbitrator, and those two select a neutral chair. Together, this panel hears the case and issues a binding decision. Under the New York Convention, which Nevis signed in 1986, these awards can be enforced just like a court judgment. For Destiny's developers, this is the selling point. No drawn-out litigation, no unpredictable juries, just a clean, enforceable result. But for residents and smaller landholders, the balance of power starts to tilt. When the developer is buying up the coastline and setting the terms, the idea of neutral arbitration can feel like an inside game. The fine print matters. The arbitration clause isn't just a dispute resolution tool, it is a gatekeeper. If you have a problem with Destiny's management, or if your land borders the zone and you are drawn into a property conflict, you don't start in a local courtroom. You start with a panel, potentially chosen by parties with deep pockets and global legal teams. The development agreement, still under wraps, will spell out who pays for these panels, who picks the arbitrators, and whether appeals to Nevis's courts are possible at all. Without public access to these terms, residents are left guessing where justice actually lives. Behind the scenes, the lines between business and government blur even further. The real estate agent brokering Destiny's land deals is Sharon Brantley, wife of Nevis's premier Mark Brantley. South Nevis Limited, Jansen's company, has acquired multi-acre parcels along the southern coast, with each transaction deepening the project's physical and political footprint. Critics question whether any local could negotiate at arm's length when the same family is sitting on both sides of the table. The proximity of power feels too close to be accidental. Supporters argue that private arbitration is standard practice for international investors, and that criminal law will still be handled by the state. But the scale of Destiny's ambitions and the developer's influence mean that civil disputes, property rights, and even regulatory enforcement could all be decided behind closed doors. For an island where most people know their magistrate by name, the prospect of justice for hire feels less like progress and more like a sovereignty trade-off. The promise of investment comes with a new reality. The rules of the game are no longer local, and the referees might not be either. In the fishing village of Newcastle, rent doubled in less than 2 years. Small guest houses that once catered to backpackers now sit empty, their owners squeezed by rising property taxes and rumours of buyout offers from South Nevis Limited. On the main road, a hardware shop run by the Claxton family for 3 generations faces a new reality. Customers who once paid in Eastern Caribbean dollars now ask if they can settle bills in Bitcoin. Marcia Claxton stands behind the counter and says she is not against progress. But who is this really for? She points to a stack of eviction notices pinned to the wall. Neighbours were told they have 60 days to move so their land can be cleared for roadworks or new villas. Down at the pier, fishermen gather at dawn, their boats bobbing in the shallow water. The southern coast's best landing spots are now fenced off, marked with signs warning of private development. Samuel, a fisherman in his 50s, says he has heard that a marina will be built for yachts, and he asks where they will go. "Our fathers fished here," he says. "Our children are supposed to fish here." For many, Destiny's arrival is not an abstract debate about legal systems or digital utopias. It is a question of whether their children can afford to stay on the island, or if Nevis will become a place where only outsiders hold the keys. A retired teacher in Charlestown describes walking past a construction site that used to be a community garden. She says people claim the land is unprocessed, but that is not true. "We grew food there," she says. "Now it is just dust and security guards." The promise of jobs and scholarships is real, but so is the fear of being priced out or pushed aside. Some young Nevisians see opportunity in Destiny's glossy plans, hoping for work or a path to the wider world. Others worry that the island's soul, its sense of belonging, cannot be bought or sold, no matter how many contracts are signed. The debate is not just about economics, it is about who gets to call Nevis home. Destiny is not the first attempt to carve out a libertarian enclave in the cracks of state sovereignty. The world has seen these experiments before, each promising to rewrite the rules, each facing a reality check from the forces of law, politics, and public will. In Honduras, the Prospera project began with a vision of private governance and streamlined arbitration, only to meet fierce backlash. Critics accused it of undermining democracy, and in 2022, the Honduran government moved to repeal the special zone framework entirely. The project now fights for its existence in court, its future hanging on the outcome of a legal battle over who gets to write the rules on Honduran soil. Seasteading, once backed by Silicon Valley money and dreams of floating cities, ran aground before a single platform could claim international waters. The promise of unregulated havens collided with logistical nightmares, regulatory pushback, and the blunt force of maritime law. Even Janssens' own Free Society project, which aimed to buy a seat at the United Nations, found that sovereignty is not a commodity. No amount of capital could persuade a government to surrender the symbols of nationhood. Destiny stands at the fork in this well-worn road. On one side, the project could succeed where others failed, anchoring a new model of governance by negotiating operational autonomy inside the legal envelope of a sovereign state. If Destiny thrives, it sets a precedent. A billionaire-backed community can purchase special rules, enforce them through private justice, and attract a global class of residents who treat citizenship as a service, not a birthright. But the other path is littered with abandoned utopias, zones where the promise of efficiency and innovation gave way to local resistance, legal challenges, and the slow reassertion of public authority. Expert voices warn that the erosion of democratic oversight is not a theoretical risk. When private contracts replace public law, the very idea of citizenship changes. The future of Nevis and the meaning of sovereignty itself now pivots on a question with no easy answer. Can a network state coexist within a nation? Or does every new carve-out draw the boundaries of democracy a little tighter? Today, one billionaire's vision tests the limits of sovereignty on Nevis, where private arbitration now rivals the nation's own courts. As crypto wealth negotiates new rules, the line between investment and influence grows thin. What happens here signals a future where power is not just bought, it is engineered. The experiment is underway. The world is watching. Drop your perspective below.